Oh, I didn't know that.
The final report on the selection of applicants for the positions of Commissioner and Chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC was delivered to President William Ruto Tuesday morning. The report is delivered following the completion of an extensive interview process. Interviews for commissioner posts were completed by the selection panel by April 25th and for the chairperson position on March 26, 2025. 11 candidates, including former Commission for Implementation of the Constitution of Kenya, CIC Chair Charles Nyachai, and former Judiciary Chief Registrar Ann Amadi, were interviewed for the chairperson job.
It's not for the faint-hearted. So it was an attempt to shake me, an attempt to mudsling my reputation because I've upheld my integrity.
East African community for the last few years has struggled almost to the point of becoming dysfunctional.
According to the law, the president must receive the names of the two candidates who emerge the top for chairperson posts from the selection panel. The president is then obligated to designate one for approval and parliamentary review. The Nelson Makanda-led panel has also suggested 9 names for the commissioner roles. The president must choose 6 of these candidates for parliamentary approval. The head of state said in accordance with the provisions of the IEBC Act, he will nominate and transmit the names to the National Assembly in full fidelity to the constitutional principles that guide the country's system of governance. This as Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka wrote to President William Ruto demanding for bipartisan consultations with the new look opposition. According to Kalonzo, failure to involve the opposition in the appointments would undermine public confidence in the commission while also posing the risk of setting up an electoral body which was partisan. Kalonzo also made reference to the changing political atmosphere which has seen Raila Odinga, the well-known opposition leader, forge positive ties with the Kenya Kwanza government. 106 candidates out of 111 who were shortlisted for these positions showed up to be questioned by the panel. The IEBC Act gives the president 7 days to select the nation's next IEBC chairperson and commissioners and present the names to Parliament. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, indeed, the reconstitution of the IEBC is one of the big conversations this morning. The president having received the final report from the IEBC selection panel yesterday, and as he said correctly, he will have to present the names, the final list of names to Parliament for vetting within the next 7 days. This comes 2 years later after the disbandment of the IEBC, and for those 2 years we've not had a commission, meaning that quite a number of by-elections still are yet to be conducted. Quite a packed in-tray for the IEBC if it comes into position within the next 2 weeks. And that is where we begin our conversation this morning. We're privileged to have in studio on my immediate right, Senator Wahome Wamatinga of Nyeri. Karibu sana. It's good to have you at
Asante sana.
Yes. Next to him is his neighboring senator, Joe Nyoto of Murang'a County. Joe Nyoto, karibu sana.
Asante.
On this issue of the IEBC, there still persists some discontent on the manner in which the selection panel was actually constituted. The Board of Constitution being the fact that now with a broad-based arrangement, ODM and UDA appear to have had a lot of say or sway in that. Do you agree with that kind of thinking? Do you think that that kind of discontent will augur negatively for the new commission?
Thank you very much. Indeed, I want to kick it off by saying that it is a very sad affair that when we do whatever we do in Kenya, it has to be looked from a political eye view. I want to disagree that there is nobody who's been recruited who's not a Kenyan. We are all Kenyans. And at the end of the day, the integrity of the individuals who have been selected does not matter whether they come from any political divide, because they are Kenyans. And I would want to tell and challenge people, we are not going to get angels to come and man the IEBC. It is the integrity of the Kenyans. It is the commitment of we as a society that should be looked into. When we get individuals who have competence, I've looked at the CVs of most of the proposed members, and I would want to agree that some of them, they have quite a flowery CV. Now it's up to them to keep up the integrity. It's up to them to do a lot of soul searching and see whether they want to do this country a service. But for us as a country, there is a time, and I think this is the point when we stop looking at things from tribal lines, when we stop looking at things because someone comes from a certain community, must be inclined to a certain line, that we start doing things because we are Kenyans and we owe it to the Kenyans. We have a moral and political obligation to do the right thing. And this should be the new thinking. And most we're looking at now, the next generation, the Gen Zs, the Alpha generation that we are leaving this country into. This is a generation that does not look things at tribal lines. And if there is nothing that we learned from last year, the only thing and the lesson that we should take home is that we have the next generation that's not looking at things from a tribal perspective. And that is the way that we should look at it.
Yes. But Senator Nyoto, there's a lot of questions that have always been asked, especially after the general election. The integrity of the commission itself, the IEBC, the chairperson. We remember how divided the commission was last time. Reconstituting a new commission should have indeed considered all those perspectives. Do you think this time around they've done a good job in how they've arrived at the final list, which we are yet to see?
Thank you, Fred. And I think it's important for us to give a background of, electoral bodies that we have had since, I believe, 1997, when there was what was called IPPG, that is Inter-Parties Parliamentary Group, where they agreed that every other political formation would contribute on of what names to be considered in nomination as electoral commissioners, or IEBC commissioners. And so when you look at what we are discussing today, it is a product of what we call the NADCO talks. And in NADCO, everyone remembers that the parties at that time were Kenya Kwanza and what do you call
Azimio.
And Azimio. But what we must think about, and loudly so, is who constituted Azimio as at that time? Who constituted Kenya Kwanza at that time? Because at that time, you remember the co-chair of NADCO Talks was Kalonzo Musyoka. Mm-hmm. He was representing Azimio. Kimani Ichung'wah was representing Kenya Kwanza. So then the question that comes is, does Azimio have the moral authority or the mandate to represent Kalonzo Musyoka and others that were in that group as at that time, as we speak today? Does Kenya Kwanza have the mandate to represent people like Rigathi Gachagua and his group that were there at that time? And so even as we sit here, the names can be contested. That, I have listened to my colleague, pontificate about, that we should not look at our country from tribal lines and prisms, and that any Kenyan elected or nominated for any particular position, people should get satisfied. But there's a reason, Fred, why IPPG in 1997, decided that everybody would contribute to these names. And not only that, we must be genuine with
Do you have any
ourselves.
particular concern about the process so far that probably you feel, apart from the constitution of the selection panel, that probably how they conducted the interviews, there could be something?
No. The only thing that arose during the interview process was, you remember, there was an addition of names to the initial shortlist. And that is a concern. Because it was there all over in the media that there were names that had initially not been picked or that did not appear on the shortlist, that were introduced mysteriously. And so there still will be questions. Okay. But we want to hope and believe that the names that will finally make it to the commission, that these Kenyans will dispense justice and fairness in their duties.
Senator Wamatinga, according to the People Daily, and this is on the front page of the People Daily, it's also one of the main stories for the day. They're talking about the IEBC reportedly narrowing down to former Judiciary Chief Registrar Ann Amadi and former CIC, that's a Constitution Implementation Committee Chairperson Charles Nyachai. as a possible chairpersons for the IEBC. But the concerns raised by Senator Nyoto indeed are serious. The issues of additional names from the original shortlist, the fact that we've discussed that issue about constituting the IEBC selection panel. Don't you think that those are some serious issues that could actually lead to some legal hurdles for the IEBC even before it starts its work?
Let me start first of all by saying that what Senator Nyoto said, that we anchored the full process based on what was discussed in 1997. We cannot argue that way. We have a lot of parameters, and I said if there is nothing that we have learned from the last year's protest from the Gen Z, is that we have to be a tribeless country. I want to say as a reader that yes, the issue that Nyoto has raised, that there were names that were added, I think that should be a concern. But I also want to say that the names that have been proposed, looking at their profile, looking at their commitment and the past experiences, I would want to say that they're highly competent people. I would want, and I would be persuaded not to think along the tribal lines, that it must be composed, and as he said, that it must involve representation from Munyoro, from Kalonzo. Why? I come from Nyeri, I come from Madeira. I am the senator of Munyoro. And if I support them, then I represent him. And I would want to disagree that once we constitute a marriage and this marriage breaks up, it does not mean that the kids cease to be. They are still there. Mm-hmm. The problem we have in this country is that we are narrow at times. I was thinking it becomes too narrow that it loses sense. Why did we learn through the process of IEBC? Why did we even constitute this body that was looking at that, which was headed by Kalonzo and Kimani Ichung'wah? Because there was Kenya Kwanza. It does not mean that once we disagree tomorrow, then we should reconstitute that and form another body to look at it. We cannot and we must not be seen as a country to be fragmenting ourselves down to suit individuals' interests, because there is the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is the country called Kenya. And I would want to believe and challenge everybody who gets an opportunity to serve in the commission. I got an opportunity to serve in the Parliamentary Service Commission, and I can tell you, I do not represent the interests of Kikuyus there. I do not represent the interest of a certain tribal inclination or political affiliation. I serve the interest of every parliamentarian serving in the Parliament of Kenya. Why? That is the calling. That is the oath that I committed myself to do. And that is what we as Kenyans must learn to do. Despite of where you come from, you must serve the office you're putting, knowing so well that we have a greater calling of a country called Kenya.
Yes, but Kenyans from history have had a lot of trust deficit towards some of these institutions that should be dealing with a lot of these serious processes like the election. Allow me to welcome into this discussion Sabina Chege, nominated MP. Karibu sana and good morning.
Good morning to you.
We're discussing the reconstitution of the IEBC. The president received the final report from the selection panel yesterday. Within the next 7 days, the names will be before Parliament for vetting and possible approval. But there are concerns even before then. And this stemmed from the historical, trust deficit that have especially beleaguered the IEBC or any electoral commission or panel that we've had. Do you share in some of those concerns that even your colleagues, politicians, have raised? Key among them, the constitution of the selection panel, that probably it is politically skewed to one side.
Well, the constitution of selection panel, and good morning.
Good morning.
There's a law, and there's a way that the selection panel was picked. And you know, only a few Kenyans can sit in a certain position at one point. I may desire my own brother to sit, but unfortunately, when positions are given, the question we ask ourselves is that, are the people who are in those positions qualified? Are they Kenyans? And the integrity of the process. I think that's what we should be looking at. Secondly, for the team to have reached to a point where they have forwarded the names to the president, I would say we have many, many constituencies, many wards, and many sections of this country that has stayed for a very long time without having their leadership, because either some of them lost through the court process or some lost through a transition. And so for me and my interest as a Kenyan would be, how can we fast track the process so that those places in Kenya that have no representative either at the ward level or the national level to be represented, and they deserve to be represented. Secondly, I'll be looking at the names that have been forwarded. I am not so sure about the process because, you know, this country has been held hostage by a few individuals for a decade. where some people feel it's either my way or the highway. But at this time, we need to look at the greater good of Kenya and ask ourselves, the people or the names that have been forwarded, are these Kenyans? We had a whole selection panel. If they have forwarded the names to the president, and there is a process, I know there is even a letter that came up. According to the law, is the president supposed to consult political bodies or political parties, or some arrangement that the president maybe have chosen or had chosen to? Because we know how the whole of this process started. There was Azimio, there was Kenya Kwanza, there was some agreement, there was a bombers at the NADCO. So is the NADCO part of the law? Or does the law require...
There was a lot of consideration for the NADCO.
I know it was considered, which I would say it's courtesy extended by the president, but we follow the law. So the big question we should ask ourselves is, was the law followed? Are the people who have been shortlisted Kenyans? And for me, I await the names to come to Parliament, and we look at their CVs, whether they're qualified or not. And after that, I would wish Kenya to have an active and a working IEBC, because we have really delayed for a very long time.
There were concerns about the inclusion of some 6 names who were not initially shortlisted, who eventually appeared for the interviews. Now, these are things that could open up this process to some legal hurdles.
The question is, why would that come now? I would ask myself as a Kenyan, because I'm not privy to the information. And you see in Kenya, every morning you wake up, you find information all over. So is that information credible? And because there was a selection panel, why would the selection panel have accepted extra names, and where did they come from? You see, those are the questions, because if then the process was not stopped then, why would you stop it now? So let us not look at handles or more reasons, more excuses not to have IEBC. For me, I would say let's have IEBC as soon as today, so that we can have things moving. And remember, we have an election coming in the next 2 years. Will the IEBC constituted be ready for the elections? We know the process. We know the issues about ballot papers. Our elections are complicated. You see, in the developed country, you see people that can even vote through a mail. But we know we have complicated this process, from printing of the ballot papers, from the registration and everything else. It's complicated. And I'm very sure our young people, what they want to do is register, because we know historically the young people have not been voting. But this time I can foresee the Gen Z, the young people want to come out and vote. So we should be giving them an opportunity to go register, to actually for the IEBC to get ready and fully prepare themselves for 2027, so that there are no doubts. And I would say, especially from us leaders, maybe it doesn't have to go my way all the time. But if the person who has been given the duty is a responsible Kenyan, a person of integrity, a person who is qualified, why not trust them on the job? Because these people are not supposed to represent individual interests.
Time is definitely of the essence, Senator Nyoto, but should it come at the expense of having the correct process of getting proper IEBC?
Fred, elections are about fairness. And if there is anything that makes anybody, doubt the fairness of the process, then it should be a concern that is very valid. So, because we have had elections in this country, Fred, and we know that people have complained of fairness. Because why, for example, in 2022, did we have some 3 commissioners disagreeing with the rest? So it means that then, the fact that there was no unanimity in making this particular decision shows that there were some interests that were at play. And so when we see some names, I mean, remember that IEBC is like an arbiter, because in any particular, contest, there are parties, and an election is, in an election it's a contest. So when, for example, you see a commissioner who is directly affiliated or has some links with a candidate, then of course you cannot dismiss that and say that, we should stop looking at our country, from a tribal angle. I mean, as long as a Kenyan is competent. I mean, there are many Kenyans that are competent. So if you have been my buddy in business, in politics, in whatever it has been, and I'll be a candidate in an election that you are supposed to announce the winner, then of course we must be concerned, because even even as time has passed, I mean, how can you downplay the fact that there were some names that were added? It was all over. It is not something that anybody can claim that they did not have information about.
Do you, for example, have questions or concerns around, because the People Daily talks about the possible names for chairperson, says the former Judiciary Chief Registrar Anna Madi and the former CIC Chairperson Charles Nyachai.
Well, as a person, I mean, if you look at integrity, for example, Anna Madi was accused, and again, this was something that was in public domain, was accused of getting, involved in a very big scandal. I think it was a gold scandal, and it was all over. And I'm not judging her to say that it was true or not, but that should be a matter of concern. Charles Nyachai is known to have worked with William Ruto. I mean, I think at the party, I may not remember the position at which he served, but he has very close links with William Ruto. And so these are people, the two of them, these are people with whom Kenyans have reservations. And so, of course, we have concerns, and we have to raise these concerns. And the qualifications should not be the only thing, Fred. I mean, integrity, especially if you are going to serve at the IEBC, integrity for me should be everything.
And probably those are the questions that will be asked during...
And I think the big question we should be asking ourselves, which are these names that were added? You know, we can keep on mentioning there were some names were added. So which are some of these names that were added?
Possible chairpersons, Anna Madi, Charles Nyachai.
I would say if Anne was accused, and you know, I'm not just speaking because she's a woman, and I don't know why Joe would just speak on her. We have all been accused of things, but have we been vindicated about the same accusation? If I come and say today, Joe Newto is running a school that is so and so and so, is it true? Because I can stand and say it. Is it true? Or can I prove that information? I think, you know, in Kenya, we are very good story creators. I'm not so sure about how that case of Anne went. And so for me, yes, I'll start for integrity, but let us not judge because of things that came up and we have not seen maybe the conclusion of the matter. When you talk about Nyachai maybe working with Ruto, who has not worked with Nyachai before? Because he was a commissioner, I think, before. And you see in these politics, look at William Ruto. Look at Kalonzo Musyoka. All these people, they are all monkeys who belong to the same forest. So what they normally do is choose where they are doing their dances, whether you're on the south or on the north. But at the same time, all of them, no one, including Kalonzo Musyoka, cannot claim that they have not worked with Charles Nyachai. And somehow in Kenya, we are kind of all related. So if today my brother becomes the chairman of IEBC, does it mean that I cannot vie if I want to vie for any position? It is not about relationship. When people hold offices, it is not about relationship. It's about the integrity and how you can be able to do a job. So for me, what I'll say, let's give them a chance. Let's see the names that are going, because I'm not actually sure which are these names that have been forwarded by the President to Parliament. I'm not sure of the names. I would be interested to see. And because now we're on recess in Parliament, maybe even to be recalled so that we can be able to look, scrutinize, and make sure that we are fair to Kenyans as we pass these names.
Yes, so definitely the President will be forwarding the names from the report that he was handed by the selection panel for the IEBC to Parliament within the next 7 days. He may do it sooner, and after that, Parliament will have 7 days to vet and approve them for appointment as IEBC chairpersons and commissioners. So that conversation will definitely continue, and we'll leave it to that. I want us to move to some political discussion. Yesterday, President William Ruto was in Narok, and he talked about what the opposition are talking about, the fact that they keep chanting, "must go." And he says this is empty talk. It is part of what we've covered here at TV47. Let's watch that story. Ruto must go, just empty talk.
During his speech, President Ruto urged his opponents, led by his former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, to prepare a manifesto with solid plans to improve the lives of Kenyans. The president pointing out that those interested in his removal from office in 2027 are only after their own interests and not tangible agenda.
Waulize Wakenya wenzangu, hasa wale ambao ni viongozi, nataka niwaeleze wakati huu ni wakati wa maendeleo. Kuna wakati itakuja ya siasa, tutakutana katika kiwanja ya siasa. Tulizeni boli, mambo bado.
Leo ni siku ya maendeleo. Leo ni siku ya kuhakikisha hata sisi tumekaa katika hiyo meza ya kugawa hela za Kenya.
He reiterated that his goal is to unite Kenyans, stating that his government continues to implement development projects, including infrastructure construction, affordable housing, and social welfare.
Sasa hapa Kedong, mbeleni, serikali ilikuwa imewapatia ekari 4,000. Mimi nimeenda nimetafuta pesa ya serikali, nimewanunulia ekari zingine 6,000.
President Ruto announced the allocation of 6,000 acres of Kedong Ranch to the Maasai community. He made this announcement in Suswa, Narok County, where he also officially launched the modern Suswa market.
Nataka nikushukuru kwa sababu tuko na mambo mengi ambayo leo tumefanya. Tumefungua soko 2 pale Narok East, tumefungua campus wetu ya KMTC hapa Narok.
President Ruto additionally announced that the government will hand over the management of Mau Forest to Narok County government to ensure its conservation and resolving of ownership disputes. Ruto stated that the government has also allocated funds to construct a 100-kilometer fence around the forest to prevent encroachment.
Tumekubaliana tukomeshe siasa ya Mau. Na mimi nimetoa pesa ya serikali ili tu fence ile Mau, tuweke fence ambayo hakuna mtu tena atarudi kule msituni.
This tour comes amid land disputes in some areas of Narok, particularly the Angata-Barikoi land conflict, which has resulted in the deaths of several people. Joash Onsare, TV 46.
Yes, the initial part of that story forms the basis of our discussion this morning. Senator, the weekend, your home in Madeira played host to quite a number of this, what we may call the opposition luminaries. And it would appear it created a lot of excitement or elicited a lot of reaction from that, seeing even the president now talking about wale wengine. Because probably now he can point at a particular direction. But the fact that he's asking people to wait until later, while he himself is being seen on top of vehicles, do you think the president is being fair to the political discussion we're having?
Indeed, we had this gathering in Madeira, which happens to be my home constituency. And I would say for some of us, it was quite a sad moment because we looked at people who had converged together with one single agenda, and that is Ruto must go. And I asked myself, looking at the 3 people who were supposed, and even some of the other supporters, who were supposed to have met to discuss what political discourse we as a country should take. And the only agenda that they can put on the table is Ruto must go. We'll make the president a one-term president. I looked at them, analyzed each and every individual, starting with the former CS Agriculture. And I do remember, because I sit in the Agricultural Committee, when we summoned him to the Senate to answer on questions of fake fertilizer. He defended and said there's been no fake fertilizer. It is on record. I looked at the former CS in public service. He's been sitting in that docket for 2 years. I asked myself, what is it that he can tell us he's taken home? What is it that he can tell us as a CS? What is it that has performed? I looked at the former CS Matiang'i. What can Kenyans remember Matiang'i of? Despite of, other than the Riviala incidences. I looked at the former deputy president and asked myself, the 2 years that he's been a deputy president, other than dividing this country along tribal lines and telling us this country belongs to shareholders, what is it that he can show? And I said, it's such a big pity for the country if that's the kind of alternative leadership that we have, people converging together, not because they have an agenda for the country, but with a common unifying factor saying Ruto must go. I looked at the former Vice President, Carlos Mbosyoka. I asked myself, what is it in the history books of this country that he'll be remembered as one thing that he saw? I was expecting that they'll come and tell us, these are the problems with the current regime, and these are the solutions that we are proposing, and moving forward, this is what we must do. But when they say we must come together to make sure that we make Ruto a one-term president, that we must come together to make sure that Ruto must go as the agenda, that worries me a lot, because I ask myself, where are we heading as a country? I would say the president is very light. Why? This is no time to campaign. Let us do whatever we need to do, that's development. When the campaign comes, we will all hit the road and start explaining, this is what I've done as a country. And I would say, how comes I never had any one of them talk about the economic indicators that we are current with? How comes that I had none of them talk about the big debt that we inherited and that we are paying using between 1.6 and 1.9 billion to settle off foreign debts, these foreign obligations? How come I did not listen to any one of them talk about the youth agenda, how we are going to create opportunities for the youth so that we can be able to absorb them? When I listen to them, then I have a reason to get worried. If these are the kind of people that we are going to say, this is the alternative leadership, then we as a country have a big problem.
Senator Nyoto, you must respond to that. Is there an issue with the agenda that you've set for yourselves as the Wamonyoro grouping? Should you be talking about something else at this point?
Thank you, Fred. And I've listened to my colleague and friend, Senator Wamatinga. And you can tell that he has been rehearsing what he's saying. Because these are things that we hear the president talk about all the time. But it is important for people to be sober. It's important for people to be fair in their assessment. Because, for example, when Senator Wamatinga tells you that Linturi lied in Parliament, that there was no fake fertilizer, you must understand the circumstances under which he was operating. Because the fact is, Fred, that in this country, if you are a CS, then you do not speak your mind. You have to pick the mind of
even
the
before
president.
parliamentary committee?
And let us allow me. I did not interrupt him.
You're saying even as CS before parliamentary committee, you're supposed to...
I mean, you have... Because if you dig to this, and you only need to listen to Rigathi Gachagua, who was deputy president then, and he will tell you who was responsible of this fake fertilizer. And I can tell you that Linturi was not involved in any way. And there are people, names are there of the people who did this particular, I think I would call it a heinous act against the farmers of Kenya. When Senator Wamatinga tells you when Senator Wamatinga asks you what can Matiang'i show other than the bodies that were recovered in River Yala, I want to ask Senator Wamatinga, really? You do not know that Matiang'i brought what we call this digital revolution. I mean, before then, I mean, we were analog when he was communications minister. We were analog. Media houses were analog. He is the guy that fought and introduced, the digital communication in TVs and what have you. I mean, it is Matiang'i when he was CS for education that dealt a final blow to cheating in examinations. And in 2016, brought very many, changes that saw cheating and the many A's that were being manufactured somewhere at KCSE level, dealt with and, streamlined admission to universities. I mean, you cannot sit here and ask what can Matiang'i show. I mean, there are so many things that Matiang'i has achieved for this country, especially when we were CS for communications and CS for education. You cannot say that the only thing that Rigathi Gachagua, according to Senator Wamatinga, did was to divide Kenyans, I don't know along what lines and what have you. I mean, it is Rigathi Gachagua that led the fight for reforms in the coffee sector, in the tea sector. And nobody doesn't know the meeting that we had in Meru, and Senator Wamatinga must have been there, talking about, ways in which we would improve earnings to coffee farmers.
The concerns right now are about your rallying call, Ruto must go. That is the only unifying factor.
I'm coming to that. I mean, we have issues. Ruto must go because Ruto has messed the economy. Ruto must go because Ruto has messed the health system by introducing, to borrow his word, a mongrel of a health financing model. I mean, Ruto must go for messing education in Kenya. Ruto must go for, officiating a government that has killed the youth, abductions that had not been seen before. Ruto must go because of the content that he has shown against the people of Kenya, calling people stupid, saying that anybody who has never stepped in the airport should not mention anything to do with the airport. Okay. I mean, Ruto must go for contempting.
Is it enough? Is it enough to rally the country in a political direction? Just saying Ruto must go.
No. I'm telling you the issues. I mean, these issues will not be dealt with as long as Ruto continues being in office, because we are the country. The government is operating on his agenda, his policies. And in order for you to bring in new policies, in order for you to bring in new agenda, Ruto must go. You cannot be able to introduce any policy or any new agenda in this country if you don't have the mandate of the people. And we can only have one president at a time. If there will be another president, Ruto must go to pave way for another president in order for us to be able to implement the things that
Sabina Chege, the president has found it important to actually answer back and say that that formation has no agenda, meaning that he is concerned. There was a lot of excitement in Wamunyoro at the weekend when Fred Matiang'i finally showed up and joined them. Is the president getting jittery?
Well, I don't think so. And, you know, Fred, I think I have an advantage. I've worked with majority of these people. I've worked with Fred Matiang'i when I was chair of education and he was a CS education. I've also worked with Kalonzo when we were in Azimio. I've worked with Rigathi Gachagua briefly, very briefly. And you know, it's very interesting when you see the kind of talks that are happening. You know, the first person who had said Rigathi must go was John Newton. That he actually began that discussion in our county, and I was very worried and asked them what was not happening. That is water under the bridge. But basically, this is, I don't know, I would say the most difficult season to be a politician in Kenya. And things have moved and have changed very fast. When you talk of a government that you're saying must go, and you are part of the formation of that government, what are you telling Kenyans? You see, I was in Azimio, I was in Jubilee, I stuck in Jubilee, and over the weekend, I looked at even the former deputy president, almost running out of his breath, talking about Uhuru should not be abused. That is, I actually cried one day, trying to talk to my people in Murang'a and asking them, why are you, being unfair to Uhuru? And the best thing he's trying to do is to help this region. And he's the one who came out and said Uhuru is a drunkard. He said he has been his PA. He's the one who got him from the bar. There were many things that he said at that time. So when I looked at him on Sunday, I was like, wow. So this is the same guy who is now almost becoming emotional and saying we were told to abuse Uhuru. Told by who? You told us yourself that you are his PA, that you are the one who got him from bar, that you are the one who knew how drunkard he was. So let us not sugarcoat things. And especially we who have a position, I'm nominated. Senator Joe is my senator in Murang'a County, and I respect him a lot. And you have a Matinga. We have an opportunity, and unfortunately, time is going. We have 2 years to go. What will we show Kenyans? Because right now, we are busy trying to tell them how we want 2027 to be. But what have we done from 2022 to 2027? It is unfortunate that the kind of leadership we have, it's a very selfish leadership. They are just thinking about themselves. Are the people saying Ruto must go genuine? For me, from where I sit, and I'm not the judge, I'm not God, I will say no. They are not genuine. And majority of them are failures. And because they have not performed, either as a senator, either as an MP, either as an MCA, or either whichever position you are in. Remember, when Kenyans went to vote, they casted votes for 6 individuals, from MCA to the MP, to the governor, to the senator, to the women rep. And there was one position of the president. Each and every person has a role to play. And if you start with an MP has more than 200 million shillings every year that he takes to the constituency. What has that MP done? But because majority of them have done nothing, the best thing they can come and say is Ruto must go, because that's the easy thing that will make people clap for you, that will make people forget what was your real agenda or what were you supposed to do for them. But remember, after 5 years, I hope, and especially from my region, that we will not repeat the same mistake that happened in 2022. Because we came and said we are following so-and-so, or we came with, it was like a euphoria. and people just
the
elected.
The are getting louder, Sabina. They're getting louder. Ruto must go, Ruto must go.
That's what I'm saying. But the question is, I'm asking the people who are leading, and it's good for Kenyans to open their eyes. These people who are leading saying Ruto must go. What are these reasons that they are saying? I've heard many things that my friend here has said, and allow me to pick on one thing, because I was a former chair of health. And let me pick on SHA, which is they have gone to the ground and told people SHA is not working. I have a sick dad, and I have taken him to hospital, and SHA has worked. I think yesterday in the papers there was a story of 2 men who took their wives to one hospital. One hospital. One of them paid 150,000. She was going for delivery. And the other one walked out with their wife without paying a dime. Why? Because one of them registered with SHA, the other one didn't. And when they were interviewed, they were asked, why didn't you register? I said, because I was told SHA is not working. Every process, and even every leader knows, there is a challenge in every process. Let me talk about presidency. It is not a cup of tea. You come in, you have people who are opposing you, you have people who are working with you, and these leaders are elected and they know, especially the people who help us in the campaign. Immediately after you get to the office, for instance, Senator Joe, he had many people who supported him in Murang'a County, but how many people can he employ in his office? Very few. So how many people can he impact to directly? Very few. But you get the same people coming and opposing you, the people who supported you. And it's I see leadership as the same when Jesus was the people sang Hosanna, Hosanna to Jesus, but immediately after when a chance came of who should we crucify, they said crucify Jesus, the person who had performed miracles, the person who had done many good things to them, but people forgot. So it's not starting now. Human beings have a nature of trying to, despise what is there and looking for more. But what are we even offering? And I think that's a question the president was asking. Yes, Ruto, if you say Ruto must go, what are we offering for 2027? I wish, and I was hoping to see that on Sunday, that the group that converged in Mount Kenya, they said, this is our strategy, this is what we want to go. Because when you tell me that you're going to have a new political party, how many political parties do we have? Okay. We still have existing political parties.
Let's listen to the Deputy President speaking in Wamunyoro, just to get a sense of what kind of discussions and what quality of discussions we had there.
Mimi niseme rais ulikuwa hapa juzi. Mimi ni kwa sababu ni muungwana na niheshimu ofisi yako. Nikatoa mwelekeo kwa mlima. Nikasema usitukanwe na mtu yeyote. Nikasema usipigiwe kelele. Ukuje uongee na watu ya mlima lakini uwalipe kwa sababu unakuja kuongea uongo. Si ndio? Si nilisema mchukue pesa. Mimi nikasema msikize uongo lakini wacha nikuambie William Ruto. Ukiendelea kutumia vijana kutukana Uhuru Kenyatta, next time utakuja mlima, mimi nitatoa amri, hawa wananchi watakutukana wewe mwenyewe. Neguo. Lazima sasa kuanzia leo nikinge na kumlinda ndugu yangu Uhuru Kenyatta. Wewe William Ruto ulikuja hapa ukatudanganya na Biblia. Ukatuambia Uhuru Kenyatta ni mlevi, tukakuamini. Ukatuambia Uhuru Kenyatta ni mzembe, ukayangaisha serikali yake, ukatudanganya sisi sote mpaka watu ya kanisa. Tukamkemea Uhuru Kenyatta ndugu yetu, kiongozi wetu, tukamwaibisha, tukafanyia Uhuru Kenyatta madhambi yoyote. Tukakuja kujua wewe ulikuwa ni mbwa mwitu umevaa ngozi ya kondoo. Mimi nataka nikuambie William Ruto, I want to tell you from the mountain. Yeah? Nataka nikwambie. I want to tell you William Ruto, hakuna vibaraka yako tena watatukana Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. You did enough damage to Uhuru Kenyatta. You misled all of us. We humiliated our son. We embarrassed our son. We cannot sit back and see you use your protege kumkosea heshima Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Na mimi nikiwa kiongozi wa mlima ni jukumu langu kulinda watu ya mlima akiwemo Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ambaye ni kiongozi wetu. Negwado ito. Uhuru ni ako rumorege. Ile modo shedato hayanirie. Tokeruma Uhuru. Finally, mimi nasema namna hii. Mimi nasema vita yetu hapa ya Maumau, vita yetu ya Maumau ambaye tulipigana kwa hii msitu, wazazi wangu walikuwa pale, haikuchukua muda kwa sababu mzungu alikuwa mkali. Hiyo vita kama ni mzungu ingemaliza mwaka moja. Vita yetu ilichukua muda kwa sababu ya Home Guards na Tokonia na Komerela. Na mimi niambie wale wote walisaliti jamii yetu, wale viongozi wote wanafuata Ruto wanasaliti jamii ya Mlima Kenya. Tukituma Ruto nyumbani mtatangulia.
Before I come to you, Senator Wamatinga, I would want Senator Nyoto to respond to something. Definitely, many people watching the former deputy president, it gets a bit disconcerting. We were still here during the campaigns, and we had what he said back then. As Sabina Chege says, there's a lot of double-speak from politicians and changing tune, speaking themselves hoarse on things they said the direct opposite just a few years or months before. Are we missing out on the kind of proper conversations we should be having in 2025 as we head to an election in 2 years' time?
Thank you, Fred, and kindly allow me to respond to some of...
I would want you to respond, because I was going to Matinga first.
Then you are going to give me more time. And
I will give you more time.
And please give me more latitude, because you know I'm with two pro-government legislators.
It's okay.
And I'm the only one on this other side. And I want to tell you that as far as Rigathi Gachagua is concerned, his change of tune about Uhuru Kenyatta, I think he has given his explanations, and they have been very valid explanations. That one, of course, he was not as close to Uhuru the president. He may have been his PA, but he was not as close to Uhuru the president as Ruto was. And so he had reason, and I mean, Senator Matinga here will tell you, because he says it many times, that if a crocodile comes from a water body and tells you that the hippo in there is ailing, you have no reason to refute the claims by the crocodile. After all, the crocodile lives with the hippo in the particular water body. And so Rigathi Gachagua has explained that Ruto, who was deputy president to Uhuru Kenyatta, came and misled them, that Uhuru was a very bad person, that he was running down the country, and so they had reason to believe him. And of course, then there was a challenge with the President Uhuru Kenyatta that he was not very frequent in the mountain. And Honorable Sabina can tell you, I mean, if the stories I hear from the legislators then are true, that Uhuru Kenyatta did not accord members, the elected members of both houses then, especially from the mountain, much audience. I mean, that is something that has, yes, you'll get your time. That is something that has been said by very many people. So what President Ruto did, because he's a very crafty person, he realized that there was a vacuum in the mountain, because Uhuru was largely absent from the mountain and did not give legislators, as I have told you, enough audience. So because he's very crafty, he decided, he noted there was that particular vacuum. He occupied it. And if you talk to members then, who are legislators then, they'll tell you that while Uhuru was not very welcoming, that President Ruto, because of his cunningness, would welcome them with both hands. And so Rigathi Gachagua, with others, had enough reason to believe President Ruto. And so they were doing President Ruto's bidding. So when Rigathi Gachagua now became deputy president to William Ruto, so he discovered, now he got to know Ruto better and got to know that this is a guy who, out of 10 statements, maybe half, only maybe one statement is true. All the others are lies. And so he came now to realize and discover that William Ruto had misled him all this time and had misled the community. And that is how now Rigathi Gachagua changed tune. And I want to tell you, because you have raised the issue not just of Rigathi Gachagua, but also of other politicians. And Honorable Sabina has said that I'm the one that started saying that Rigathi must go. And I want to remind my sister, because I know she is a Christian. I know she's a staunch Catholic. I want to remind her, and I've reminded people of this so many times. Maybe she has never had an opportunity to hear me, reminding people that in the Bible there is somebody who was called Saul, who used to persecute Christians. Saul, when he met his Damascus moment, became Paul. And nobody, and my sister, listen to this, nobody in the Bible, in the history of Christianity, did more in the furtherance of the gospel than Paul, who wrote all the epistles, Corinthians, Ephesians, Colossians, all that. So you cannot keep saying that Joe Newton is the one who started the regime must go, rallying call. I can tell you that I've committed, just like Paul, who was then Saul, to do much, much, much more than anybody that was in the regime.
But you do agree. You agree.
So, I mean,
you said something different that time.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And of course, I met my Damascus movement. I got to know, if you give me time, I'll explain to you why I did that. Just as I explained to you why Rigi changed tune. Okay. And this is something that is in the public domain. Nobody doesn't know why tunes sometimes keep changing.
Yes, indeed. And politicians do that a lot of time. But do you feel that, because I have very serious concerns about the sustainability of this opposition coalition, you may be looking from outside, looking in, and this is something that every politician, every political formation grapples with, having a unity, a union that can actually be sustained for 2-3 years heading towards an election. Do you feel that probably there's such concern, and the rallying calls right now, praising Uhuru Kenyatta, saying Ruto must go, those are the best rallying calls that this group has?
Thank you very much. I happen to have the advantage of knowing Rigathi Gachagua than any of my two colleagues here. I've worked as the chair of his CDF for 5 years. And before that, I've done business with him for the last 17 years.
So you are the crocodile.
I happened to be the personal assistant to his elder brother, the former governor for Nyeri. There are so many things that I can just tell. Some of them are not even say on the terry. But I would want to start from where my brother, Senator Newton, stopped. Indeed, when I listen to Rigathi Gachagua, I get very worried. I get worried to an extent that I would ask people to have him present himself for medical checkup, because I do not agree with some of the things he said. I remember, and Joe Newton, he's sitting here next to me, knows that I am one of the people who started telling him, unite our people. And he went on the radio and said, me and him, we speak Matope. That is the time before before Saul became Paul, that he was on the other side. But I want to say this. It is quite indeed very, very unfortunate. When you stand there as a reader and try to tell people, play around with people's emotion, the discontent that is with the Kenyans, it's because the economic achievement has been as good as they're expecting. And there are some politicians who are smart enough. And I do remember most of the time that he went on the terry and went on public rallies, he used to tell us, I'm not very intelligent. We doubted that. But now, time has proved that actually, if you can go on terry, on a public gathering, and tell people that you were told, then I ask myself, what quality of leadership do we have? If you cannot make your own decisions, and I want to disagree with Newton that Rigathi did not know Uhuru. He did. Having worked with him for over 10 years, he knew him so well. Having worked with people who are so close to the president, the former president, having been a member of parliament, but what he did, and I would want to challenge Joe Newton here. We as senators from the Mount Kenya region, in the time that Rigathi Gachagua was the deputy president, he called us only twice. Once to give us a dress down on where we should not follow Ruto, and the second time to tell us we will not be re-elected because of what we perform, we will be re-elected because of the direction that we'll follow. And he said that he's going to provide direction to the mountain. And I asked myself, if in 2 years, you cannot show any direction that you give to people, other than saying Ruto must go. I ask myself, do you even have the moral authority? Do you have the integrity? There are so many things that Senator Newton does not have the advantage of knowing, which I do. And some of them, and unlike what he said, the coffee sector has been ailing years. We met and discussed several issues. But up until one individual got out of office, we enjoyed a very, very good return on coffee. Why? Because once that person presented himself, he who was a reformer, and realized that there is an opportunity of getting enormous and huge kickback, that is what they were taking. He got out. We got a cabinet secretary who's not interested in taking anything, a deputy president who's not interested in taking anything. The farmers got their return. And I can tell you moving forward, people will start realizing that this same person Who's telling this? There are so many incidences of people he said they must be fired because they were Azimio. I do remember, and Sabina is my witness here, when we went for elections, Kanini Kega, who happened to be an Azimio and Jubilee, we said that we must have our own in the era. And Rigathi said, over my dead body. And some of these things, I'm surprised, because what the likes of Nyoto here, and we must be carried with one another, what they're hoping is to ride with the wave. And because most of them are non-performers, I'm not saying Nyoto is a non-performer, they're hoping that they ride with the wave, and because of the emotional charge with the people, they're going to be re-elected. But I would want to say this, people are going, and I like what the president said, wacheni tufanye kazi, wakati wa siasa, mtihani mmetupatia, you judge us according to our performance. Okay. When I listened to Senator Nyoto, I would want to ask him, he was the chair education. I would want to ask him, in the 2 years that you are the chair of education, and I would not want to say what other people say, that he only tried to allocate money for his schools to get allotment. I will not say that because that's not my personal approach. I will not say that him having academies, he tried to swing the position he had to suit him. I will not say that because that would be quite unfair. No, I wouldn't say that in a Terry. But what I'm trying to say is some of the people we have, they are being so selfish. Okay. When you listen to Rigathi Gachagua, I will tell you so many things. Off the camera, I'll tell you so many things that you'll even be surprised that this man has the moral audacity to stand there and try to defend Uhuru. Uhuru needs no defense at all. Uhuru can talk for himself. And I do remember during the swearing in, we had agreed we are not going to attack the former president in the eyes of the whole world. And what we went ballistic, trying to prove that we are the heroes. And then from there, we started talking about shareholding, trying to alienate a whole community from a country. Okay. Hello. Do you have the attributes of becoming a reader?
Before we get to Senator Nyoto, Sabina, there's something you wanted to raise. I think Senator Nyoto would also want to respond to the same.
Well, I don't even remember what it was about, but let me just address issues as they are. One, about the presidential visit in Mount Kenya. I don't think anybody gave instructions to people of Mount Kenya on what to do. They may claim so. We were on the ground, we were with the president. The president came for development, and I want to speak where I went. I went to Murang'a, we had 3 stopovers. I went to Nyeri, I went to Kiambu. And even where there were people who were being heard, they were internal. And I can tell you, there were internal politics that were playing. It was a good time for us as politicians also to gauge ourselves and see how we are, how the ground is. And it's unfortunate when a leader and a national leader portrays his own community as a community that can just be bought. You know, there are several other leaders maybe before who have portrayed the community and our community that we are people who can just be bought, who can be given instruction. Niliwaambia mchukue pesa, msiwatukane, next time mkule pesa alafu mutukane. You know, it's really unfortunate. It's demeaning, you know, least to say. For a person like me who comes from Central Kenya, for us to be portrayed to the rest of the country like we are people who can just be given money just to appear and see somebody. Number 2, there are things that the president came and did in the region when he came in, and this is not only for Central Kenya. We have seen him going across the country, and we have seen him, the things he have been doing. Some of them are complete projects, others are continuing projects, others are new projects that he's doing. And so there is no debate about maybe what the president is doing. The debate is what is the agenda on the other side. We talked about Uhuru Kenyatta, and I wouldn't want to really discuss him today because he's one person I respect. He's a retired president. He did his bit. And I said, I think he's one of the person who was misunderstood. And like what Joe is saying, that Uhuru was not reachable, if then Rigathi would be very truthful to him, he would tell him that we were even called for private meetings as members of Mount Kenya. That Uhuru is one president who called us and told us to each one individual to come with a plan for their constituency, especially on the second term. Because first term, he tried to bring everybody, like what William Ruto is doing, bring the rest of the country together, because he was not only elected by Mount Kenya, but also the rest, and he wanted a second term. So he went out and reached to other people, and our people are not happy. I can tell you 2017, when we went to do the voters registration, it was very difficult. People were like, Uhuru is not concentrating on us. He went on the other side, and we convinced them. And when we came back, we, as the members of Mount Kenya, we had meetings. We had some of the proposals that we did from constituency level all the way to the county level. There were county projects, there were constituency projects. And I remember Uhuru saying, And I will say this today because majority of the people in that meeting would also, attest to it. He said, we have come to discuss these things, but tomorrow if you people want to go and talk about it outside there, I will say I never had a meeting with you. Because one of the problem we have from our region is that we talk too much. Other regions meet. We don't know where they met, what they talked about, what was the agenda. They have their own secret and they have their own caucuses and they caucus about their region, which is okay. But our region, somehow, we talk too much. And even before a meeting, we are having Uhuru 3, before Limuru 3, before Limuru 3, everybody knows the agenda. We are even live. So a lot of things that we do, we don't do it for the people, but we do it for the stage. I would say it's PR. It is not meant for us. So, and like what Joe Newton said, Uhuru was available. Uhuru was there for his own people. But there were people who said he's retiring, he's leaving. And so they really didn't consider him as anybody that they would have considered even to listen to him. Number 3, when Uhuru left office, there were goats that were stolen. And I've seen goats being taken right, front and center. I don't know who stole the goats, and I think they should start by returning those goats. Because if you're talking about the respect that he deserves, then we need to return those goats. But that is neither here nor there. Because again, I think he came out and said he has forgiven people. He said he has no bad blood and he's fine. But the big question I want to ask, it is good to have a Damascus moment. And I think mine, I will not say really it was Damascus. I will say there are no permanent friends or enemies in politics. People change, which is understandable. And people look at things depending on the season and the time, because things change anyway. And we only say only a fool who doesn't change their mind. So I will not blame my brother. And even when I was reminding him, I was not blaming him for now being on the side of Rigathi. But when you talk about my bill in Turi, I'm in the Agriculture Committee. We went through the process. I think I stood and defended Turi almost alone in Parliament when we were discussing about what had happened. I would not want this issue of fertilizer to be taken the direction it's going, because we are now politicizing this issue instead of saying the truth. The whole saga of fertilizer and what happened and the people who are responsible, it is there. We had a meeting in the Agriculture Committee. I stood in Parliament and I told people, do not be emotional. It is good for us to understand. There was a procurement that was done by the Cereals Board, and there was what government was giving as government subsidy. Some business people came in and they went to the Cereals Board and they gave some fertilizer that they said that fertilizer was organic, and it was not. It was Kariodusi, that soil. Mm-hmm. And they could go to Isiolo and mix. But then they went to the Cereals Board. And so when our farmers were going to buy the subsidized fertilizer, which was costing 2,500, they were told we have another one which is organic that was 1,700. And they duped our farmers. So it is good that even when we are saying we want to say the truth, let us not do skewed truth. But finally, the big question I'm asking myself about this government, because I said I think it is a government that has had the hardest time, even with the president trying to bring everybody together. I would say when we went in and we decided we want to work with the government, we were abandoned as Jubilee. And we went and even approached Rigathi Gachagua. That was the first office we went, even before we went to the president. And one of the meetings we had, and I will say it again here because there were witnesses, when our complaint was to the president that those people who were in the government, remember we were Jubilee, and so we were, the people who were custodians of the previous government. We complained about the people from our region who are being fired. Every Friday there was a new list coming up. And one of the things the president said, in presence of the deputy president, he said, mimi sina shida na watu wenyu. Wale watu wako na shida na watu wenyu ni hawa. And the deputy president was there. But he also added and said, we have agreed. If somebody must go, we will replace a person from your region. Okay. We had a very difficult time here last time. Let me finish with that. When Kanini Kega was being voted. And you know, for sure, there were instructions that came from the former deputy president that Kanini should not be elected. And it was because of maybe the things that Kanini had said also about him during the campaigns. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day I went and I found them in a meeting. I was called by Honorable Mureu. And they said, we have a Mount Kenya meeting when the meeting in State House didn't work out the way they wanted to. And that is how we caucused as members of Mount Kenya region without anybody We said, and I talked to them, I told them, Kanini comes from your region, you defeated us.
Okay.
So what more can we be able to do? Okay. So my point is this.
And I want to take us back to the issue, because I can see we are veering off and talking.
No, I'm still on the issue about what the Deputy President said. So what I will say, and I will give him time, what I will say is this. I wish today, Fred, we woke up very early in the morning to ask ourselves, what are these things that we have not achieved within the last 2 years? And what can we do as people who have positions? Because I cannot cry louder than they believed. I cannot be going to the village to tell people things are not working and have a position. What am I doing as a person with a position, as a senator?
Thank you for
as a person in parliament, what am I doing?
Senator Nyoto, and I know you have a lot to respond to, but I want to ask this question from this perspective. If you look at the dailies today, they talk about the economic survey 2025. Serious concerns have been raised, a jobs puzzle. The fact that the president is telling people that the affordable housing has created 250 jobs, but according to the National Bureau of Statistics, that is not true. On the People Daily, it's asking Ruto's lies on jobs as economy bleeds. The economic growth has slowed down for the first time in 5 years since COVID. And these are serious concerns that any political discussion should take account. The question we're asking, because the issue is about the quality of discussions that political formations are having, even as you respond. Don't you think there's enough fodder, even for that formation, to talk about and call out this government on, including on what is on the dailies? But all we're hearing is Ruto must go and Uhuru should not be insulted.
Thank you, Fred, and kindly be fair to me.
Go ahead, I'll give you time.
My two colleagues have, especially Senator Matinga, mentioned me in a very negative light, and of course I should have a reply. One thing that maybe I would want to, I have a lot of respect for Sabina Chege. She was my woman rep for 10 years, and she knows I do respect her. But when he says that Rigathi should not talk about fairness to Uhuru because anyway he attacked him for a long time, I think the Honorable Sabina also.
I did not say he should not talk about it.
Let me finish. You'll get your time. I mean that it's sad when he pretends to be defending Uhuru when he attacked him.
You mean she?
All that time. No, I'm talking about Rigi. Nobody doesn't know also what my sister Sabina did after the elections of 2022. Actually took over Jubilee from Uhuru Kenyatta, the same Uhuru Kenyatta. And in fact, for some time.
That one I'll explain it very nicely.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope you will explain. Yeah. You know, I wait.
And our time is running out. We only have
so I think yes. Also, Uhuru has been very unfortunate that you assist people, then they go around against you. Anyway, then she has talked about people who are saying Ruto must go is because they have not performed. And I think we need to define performance in this particular case. And they say, I think we need to say who should do what when they are in which particular position. Otherwise, just following Ruto and, maybe getting 500,000 one day, and you come to the village, sometimes you give people some milk or some fertilizer, that's actually not performance, because we should also ask ourselves, at what expense are you bringing this little cash from State House? And so I think we really need to define performance. When you say that, and I've listened to my sister say that SHA is actually working, and there are people who we are just condemning it for no reason. It is true that SHA is paying some part of the bill. I can show you, I can bring you a patient that has a bill amounting to 1.4 million. And SHA is paying only 135,000 Kenya shillings. The other big issue we have with SHA, and they know that, is about the 104 billion system that is supposed to run SHA. So we have issues that we are raising with SHA. We are not just saying it is not working. We are saying there are problems with the SHA. And what informed even the bringing of SHA was the benefit that we are going to get or to derive from this 104 billion, because that was going to be money that was going to be stolen. And we have consulted people who are communications experts, people people who do this technology, and they'll tell you that that system does not need to cost anything more than half a billion Kenya shillings. And so when we are saying this, we are not just saying SHA is not a good system just because it is fashionable to say so. We have issues that we are raising. When Senator Matinga says that Rigathi Gachagua should present himself for a medical checkup, surely I do not expect somebody of the standing of the senator for Nyeri to say that Rigathi Gachagua should present himself for a medical checkup.
Maybe because
if somebody has a divergent view, you cannot tell them, and nobody doesn't know what Rigathi Gachagua went through in the hands of Ruto. Nobody doesn't know. He has explained it so many times. And for you to say that just because he holds...
I thought in the hands of
why can't you wait? You even said that I was sending money. Okay. I was telling somebody to send money to my school, and I was quiet. You need to have
our time is really running out.
Yes, but let Senator Matinga have what you can call in quotes stable manners. Wait until I finish.
Senator Matinga, I'll give you an opportunity.
Yes, that is very unfortunate. When he says that, which leader goes and tells people that I was told to say this by the president, that such a person has no standing as a leader. Rigiji is only, look at him, Rigiji is only truthful. There are many people who are told what to say, including, and I'm going to demonstrate to you that some of the things that Ramatika has said about me, he was told to say that, and I'll demonstrate to you. So only that Rigiji is truthful, that he admits, and he tells people he was told. There are so many others, including Senator Matinga here, that are told what to say, but they are not truthful. So he'll not tell you I was told. Rigiji, the only difference is that Rigiji is truthful, and he'll tell you I was told to say this. So everybody in that camp is told what to say. When he says there was a meeting with the deputy president of senators of Mount Kenya, and you are told that, and Rigiji only told us that Ruto must go, and that can, surely, let us be truthful. When he says that coffee returns, farmers are only enjoying good coffee returns after Rigiji left office, because I don't know, maybe he insinuated that the Rigiji was standing between the benefits to farmers and the farmers. I think that was what he insinuated. But in Meru, we dealt with the problems, the cartels, and we were able to unmask what was happening in the coffee sector, that some people had registered companies as, millers, as, buyers of coffee, as, exporters of coffee. And this is what the problem was. It was not about Rigathi Gachagua. And if he gets an opportunity, let him explain how Rigathi Gachagua prevented farmers from enjoying the very good results of the particular engagement that we had in Meru. And he also said that Rigathi Gachagua did not support Kanini Kega, surely, up to a particular point. He did not support him. That is true. But when we went to State House and we did something like a mini election for the IELA members, and we discovered that Ruto with his people had performed a coup on us, we now decided, all of us, and I want to agree with Sabina. She came and she said, now, because it is like this community is under attack, then now we should stop, considering which party somebody belongs to, and we support Kanini Kega even as we support Maina Harofia. And so from that point going forward, by the time we were going for the election of IELA members, Rigathi Gachagua was supporting Kanini Kega, and that half-truth must be uncovered. Now, Red, Senator Matinga has said, and that is one of the things he was told to come and say here. And I expected him to at least apply his mind, to apply his judgment, as somebody who went to school, as somebody who understands the simplest policy, if the others are too complicated for him or too abstract for him. How can you, as chair of education or anybody, how can you influence government funds to be taken to a private school? Just how? I think I would want him to explain. Just how? This is a policy. How can you have money sent to your school if you're operating a school? I mean, who is that who would even maybe make such a suggestion? It is not possible. It's a policy. You cannot send government funds to a private institution. I mean, and just because, and that's why I told you I would demonstrate that he was told to come and say that. Because I saw somebody saying the same thing, just try and disparage me. And I can tell you, and people know, I am as white as snow. Let anybody bring any scandal. You know something, Senator Matinga, I know you, please. You cannot come here and talk like somebody who is under the influence of something. How can you tell somebody that he was trying to influence, public funds to go to a private institution? Please, never say something like that. Even when you are told to say something like that, please apply your mind. Please apply. If you are ever told to say something like that, please make sure you apply your mind and judgment. Okay. You went to school, Senator Matinga. When I heard my sister say that the president is trying to bring people together, and that at one particular time, there was a meeting, I think I didn't sit in that meeting, and the president agreed that with everybody from Mount Kenya who was thrown out, that there would be a replacement from Mount Kenya. And that would have been the most ideal situation to do. But Honorable Sabina, are you aware that 4 Mount Kenya senators were removed as chairs, and they were not replaced, none was replaced by any member from Mount Kenya community? I mean, are you aware about that? So when we say that President Ruto is a liar, that is one indicator.
That's not government appointment.
Are you also aware? Are you also aware that nobody from his Kalenjin community, no chair from his Kalenjin community in the Senate was removed from their position? So when somebody comes here, are you aware? I can give you a list of people in parastatus from his community. So when the President Ruto talks about tribalism and something like that, he has no moral authority.
Senator, I asked you a question.
And the ills. Now, the jobs puzzle, that's a very good thing.
Shouldn't that be the agenda that
going forward? Remember, this information, according to the Nation, has just been released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
I've given you time and you've listed a lot of things that should be talked about, but we are not listening. We're not hearing those conversations.
That's what I'm responding to, Fred, because I have been directly attacked. And, I have a right of...
just respond to that.
I'm saying we have not talked about this because it has just come to light. This is information that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has released beginning now. And we will be talking about it because, Fred, when we say, and this is a very good proof, that when we say that President Ruto is a liar, that even statistics are proving that he's a liar. He has been telling people that the affordable housing program is creating about 250 jobs every year. But look at it, that there was actually a reduction last year of the number of jobs in that particular sector. And it's because of many things. Because of the prices of building materials. Talk of, steel, twisted bars, talk about cement, talk about generally an inflated, price structure of building materials. And everybody knows that these prices, these costs of building materials, by the way, Fred, and I dare say that, are not informed by what we call market forces. They are not informed by the law of demand and supply. They are informed by the close association that President Ruto has with the DEFCI and other conglomerates around that manufacture, building materials. And so these are things that we shall start talking about. That the economy, with all the things they are telling us, that the economy has improved, that we recorded
this questions have been there for a while.
Jobs.
Because the accusation and the criticism is that the quality of conversation on that side of the political divide is nothing more than Ruto must go chant.
No, but I've given many, I've talked about many issues that we have been raising here. A poor funding model in schools and the university. We have been talking about killings, which is important. we need people's rights not to be violated, Fred. We have been saying this affordable housing is a scam because you call it affordable. Affordable, people are paying a housing levy. You construct this on government land, and then you still sell these particular units when they get they are completed to people. So how do you call it affordable? People who in the slums, for example, can be able to buy any of these affordable houses.
So, Senator, what I'm hearing.
So we have been talking
going
about
forward. The
we have been talking about them, but President Ruto and his people, like these two that you have here, will want to twist things like they are twisting. That that we are only talking about politics. We have issues that we have been raising. Let people raise issues.
I'll give you time.
Thank you. No, just tell us they're not doing.
I'll give you time as well.
And I have one point. You'll give me time to finish.
I'll give you an opportunity for final.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much. Muranga is known for one thing. One of producing emotionally very intelligent leaders. I would want to talk about the former senator, who's now the current governor. I would want to talk about the former women rep and the current women rep. I've always seen them together, trying to push the agenda, development agenda for Muranga. And I keep on asking myself, Senator Joe Nyoto, having been elected as a senator for Muranga, from a county that is known to produce highly intelligent people, what really happened? Listening to him, and I want to say, Senator Nyoto, when we come for this kind of debate, we're trying to one thing, unpack the things that we're talking about, the ails that, what is ailing our country. I could have expected you to tell us, in Wamunyoro, we have seen this as a problem, and we are suggesting this the solution. Because that moving forward, and there's something that Honorable Sabina Chege said, we have an opportunity of formulating laws, sealing the loopholes and the leakages that we see, be it in SHA, be it in the education modeling system, be it in any law that we think. We have the floor of the House to raise any issue. I raised a very important issue that when we called the CS Agriculture to the Senate Agricultural Committee, his words were, there is no fake fertilizer. We had done a public participation, moved around the country, and we realized that there is fake fertilizer, and we told him as much. And he said, no, there is no fake fertilizer. We even presented a bag of fake fertilizer on the floor of the House, but he said there's none. Now I'm surprised that Senator Nyoto is trying to polish them as holier than thieves. The former deputy president, whom I really don't like talking about because one, he's my personal friend, two, he's my constituent, and three, he has been a colleague and business partner for many years. I'm surprised Senator Nyoto is saying what Ruto did to Rigathi. In fact, it is what Matiang'i did to us. If you look, and it is in the dailies, he was the accused number one, I was the accused number two. Our businesses, my business was shut down. And when we came to office, the first thing that we thought we would do is to bring our people together. But no, he said, huyu alikuwa Azimio, this one must go. We went to the president and told him, we had agreed on this and this and this. Anybody who's fired from our community, because we must say, if you're not competent, then you must go. And we agreed. And that is why I want to say here, we have 7 actually cabinet secretaries, 15 PSs, 45 chairs, 163 directors. And on the positions of the Senate, maybe Senator Nyoto is being economic with the truth. It is not an appointment. It is not. It is, committees constituted of 9 members. And these 9 members, you go Robbie, and then you're elected as the chair or the vice chair. It is not the president. He doesn't sit in those committees. It is not the majority leader. He does not sit in those committees. It is us in those committees. And I would want to tell you, in the composition of staff on those committees, we as the mountaineers, we are still the majority. Why didn't Senator Nyoto convince us? Elect me as the chair. Elect me as the vice chair. But I want to put it this way. If you do not support the agenda of the government, then why should you sit in a committee that generates business? There is a question that Senator Nyoto has become quite emotional and refused to answer. I asked a very simple question. Tell the people of the mountain, tell the people of Muranga, as the chair of the education committee, and I'll tell people, and I did tell them yesterday, I can repeat it again. As the chair of the energy, I did 1, 2, 3, and caused change or effected change that was impactful to the Kenyans, that was impactful to the people of Kenya. This is the kind of conversation we should be having moving forward. But I would want to disagree and really feel pity for my colleague here, that the only clarion call they have is Ruto must go. And then he says, quite a number of ailing things. Let him table motions. Let him bring laws in the House. Let him bring debate where we can be able to address those issues. And I do want to remind you, in the Senate, after the Gensis, we sat down and discussed the things that happened as senators, and we said, moving forward, this is the way to heal the country. I would want Senator Nyoto to come with a motion today in the afternoon because we are sitting. I would want him to come with a debate because we are sitting today. I would want him to, because the share of the Rigo is a senator from Tharaka Nithi, which happens to be Murima, to go and say we propose the change of this law because we feel by that so doing, I'll protect and best represent the people of Murang'a. But it is indeed very unfortunate because the leadership of Murang'a, I've seen them so united. But the missing person in that is Joe Nyoto, because he believes by being in Wamonyoro, he'll be re-elected. And he said something, and very, very important. It is 2 years to election. There's still a lot of things that are going to come. If you look at the trajectory that the economy is taking, if you look at the trajectory that the economic indicators are looking, if you listen to the president and the unification that's moving around the country, when people now start looking at themselves as a nation, not as a tribe, I pity people who believe that the person to give direction is a tribal kingpin. I don't want to disagree. Finally, it is important when we sit and tell Kenyans the truth. We three here, we have the ability, the capacity, legal mandate, and the constitutional mandate to change any bad law that we think is affecting our people. Let him tell us. I presented this bill because I believed it's going to address the issue that I've raised, and it was shot down by the proponents of the government. Right. Let us argue evidence-based. He's a very close friend. He's able to persuade me. He can persuade Sabina. We can sit down and persuade each other and say, if this law is not working for us, let's fix it. All right? That ability we have. Final opportunity, Sabina.
You know, I'm very sad this morning to see how we are becoming emotional about politics. And you know, as I've said, I've stayed in this politics for some time. I'm serving now my 13th year. And experience has taught me to sometimes take a break, reflect, and focus. When you talk about myself and Uhuru Kenyatta, I think I sacrifice everything for Uhuru, and I have never, if there is one incident I've stood and abused Uhuru, I would like Senator Joe to say. Number two, when we cleared and we came to Parliament, we were in Azimio. We never had any, after the election agreement with Azimio, we were mistreated. We sought to leave Azimio. We actually officially wrote. And that is why today in Parliament, I'm a Jubilee Party whip, because the Jubilee Party wrote and said we don't want to be in Azimio. So even when this NADCO and everything was happening, what we had said, we want people to have a dialogue and a national dialogue, people to come together. And fortunately, though we are not included even in the government, even today, but our prayer was, let's not go for demonstration, let us reason together for the sake of this nation. It has come to pass. And for me, I am more than happy. When Uhuru Kenyatta left 2022, we had a NEC of 22 persons who are still existing. Out of all the NEC members, when we tried to reach out, and he retired, and I'm very sure he had gotten really disappointed by what really happened, and maybe people betrayed him. We tried to reach out to him, and the only meeting Uhuru met was with the people who lost, the former members of parliament. He never had a chance, even today, to meet with the people who were elected as the senators or the members of parliament. And so when the next seat, and I would want to tell John Nyoto, I'm not part of the NEC of the Jubilee Party. There was agreement. Actually, initially, Uhuru had sent Murathe for the removal of Kioni. And when we met, and when the NEC met, there was a bit of disagreement, and then NEC met again. NEC members, I'm not part of it. Out of 22, 18 of them voted for Kioni to go. There have been a lot of, I don't want to discuss the matter because we have been in and out of court. None of those courts that we have taken Jubilee to court, it is actually Kioni who took Jubilee to court, and then the whole of that have been back and forth. There have been appeals and everything else. That's a story for another day. When the NEC met, we also did not have a party leader because the Constitution says after the retired president leaves the position, we are supposed to have an acting party leader. We did not have. The NEC selected me as acting party leader. I never selected myself. I've told you I don't sit in the NEC. And even today, we have met with Uhuru 2 times, and we have said, come talk to us as Jubilee Party. We have nothing and have never disrespected Uhuru Kenyatta. And as you would want to say, I've never betrayed him. We have worked together. We have actually made the Jubilee Party still remain relevant till today. And us, even now in Parliament, we're an independent parliamentary party. So I would really wanted to
What position do you hold in the party, apart from...
I'm the whip.
Just that?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm just a whip at the National Assembly.
Who is the party leader?
But right now we have the court case going on.
Okay.
But the
It's a
party
matter
leader, it's a matter of court. So that one I don't really need to go into. There is an issue of the people who have been in government, whether you are incompetent or you are performing. And I would also want to tell Joe here, the issues of positions which we were discussing then when we were in a meeting with the people from our region, we were not discussing about political appointments that are done for chairs or vice chairs in Parliament. Those one he knows is about royalty. It has happened even before, even when Uhuru was the president, people were moved from being chairs or vice chairs. But it is good to say, and I think Wamatinga has better statistics than I do, that we have 15 PSs, we have 7 CSs, we have several people. If, you know, I hear these people saying the number on the other side. If we would also give the number on our side, really. Okay. And so the last one is about these jobs. And I think we have the issue of the National Bureau of Statistics, and I don't want to dispute what the numbers they have said. But if Joe Nyoto today will just walk and get into Murang'a, start from Gatanga, go to Mackenzie, go to Kangari Market, go and see the people who have been, you know, the people who are actually on the job. Because sometimes we will rely on this, but there are things on the ground. Go to the ground and see people who have benefited. And I think the big question we should be asking ourselves, myself here in Junior too, why would I go to Mackenzie and find the people who are employed more and maybe not from our community? Because either there's an issue of alcohol. I was in Gatanga yesterday, where there are even nightclubs that have been started in the village. And those are the issues. So our young people are drinking, they're not able even to go and perform. We should be looking at maybe why our people not accessing to these jobs because they are there. You find, do we have enough people who can be able to work in these housing projects that we have? Let's have a solution. And I want to say, let us not become very emotional. Yes, the housing, you might say they are not affordable. And I think what we have in a country, in this country, is low-cost housing, where people could not afford. At least Joe has the privilege. He has a mortgage. He can be able to buy himself a house.
And be out of
And
time.
myself, I also have a privilege. I can be able to get a mortgage from Parliament. There are people who just rely on rent. And the whole concept of this, I'll say low-cost housing, because it's actually low-cost housing, is that instead of paying rent, you can be paying that rent, but it goes for you to own that house. And this can be a fantastic project. Finally, let me just read a message. Let me just read a message from somebody from Murang'a County called Dania, who is from Gikoe. He has just told me, just tell my senator that shower perfectly works. It paid 134 for my late grandma. Without SHA, I wonder why I could have started. Tell them to stop whipping emotions to the public. That is somebody from Murang'a.
Senator, I'll give you a minute and a half for your final comments.
Thank you, although that would be very mean of you because
unfortunately we are out of time.
That's fine. Senator Wamatinga said that he knows of emotionally intelligent people from Murang'a. I don't know what his barometer for that is. And I don't know why he talks about Murang'a while he comes from Nyeri. He should be telling us about Nyeri. That is where he comes from. Let the people of Murang'a decide who is intelligent and who is not intelligent. And I know he was responding to that because I asked him to, of course, employ his mind sometimes, not just saying what he has been told. So the people of Murang'a know their people. And I would get worried if that statement was coming from somebody from Murang'a. But it's coming from somebody from Nyeri. I mean, he should be commenting about Nyeri. He has misled the public. And I'm glad that Sabina here has, of course, told him that the matter of committee chairs is about loyalty. So he wants everybody to believe that you become chair by the virtue of campaigning amongst the committee members. And that is the only thing that matters. And he was lying, and he knows in himself, he knows he's lying. All of us who lost these seats, these chairs, and all of us, incidentally, by coincidence then, from Mount Kenya, we were first removed as members of the committees that we chair. That one, Wamatinga will not tell you. So we didn't even have any chance of becoming chairs because we are not even members, without exception. I mean, so please don't, it's important that we do not mislead the public. He has asked what I did when I was chair education, and it's important for people to know that when I was chair education, I saw to it that we were able to pass a bill and it is now law that every other county should employ ECD teachers on permanent and pensionable basis, and not only that, that they should pay them according to their qualifications, what we call individual teacher qualifications. And of course, he didn't want to tell you that. That is something that I did. So he has said that we should take motions and bills to Parliament in order for us to bring change. And let me tell people who do not maybe understand how Parliament works, that anything that we bring to the House, at the end of the day, will have to be voted for. And as we speak now, nothing that is not pro-government can be able to pass. And pro-government legislators will actually say, put the question when they know, because they know they have the numbers. And so sometimes, he has said that we should give suggestions on how to solve the problems that we are pointing out. And like I told somebody else somewhere, we know they are scouting for ideas from us. We will not give them our ideas. Let them generate their own ideas. I know they had been sent here to scout for ideas from me. I'll be very mean with that because I know they have no idea of the country. And he has said that leaders in Murang'a are united. I'm the only lone voice. I mean, if you talk about Murang'a, and if you are talking about then Wamunyoro, Murang'a is Wamunyoro, save for one or two people. So I think let him not cheat people. Okay. I want to tell my sister Sabina, because she said, and please, because Senator, please, this one is very important, yes. Please, that she said that this, the debate with the president then was not about, chairmanships in the committees, but about appointed positions. Sabina, please, Nancy Macharia, the CEO of TSC, her tenure is coming to the end, I think, next month. Please then make sure that you tell the president to replace her with a person from the same particular community, if that was their reason. No, she said, we
run the risk of introducing
we cannot introduce the country to that country.
Let me say
that they agreed. Why don't you allow me to finish? They agreed that anybody removed from an appointed position
that is not being
would
removed.
be replaced, or anybody who is leaving will be replaced. Finally, let me assure her, I am not absent from Murang'a. If there is any senator that has been on the ground,
on that issue of TSC, that's a serious
senator.
It's a very serious issue. I just want to say this. We can also not be unreasonable here, and we are also Kenyans. Nancy Macharia's position is a position that is, the term is coming to an end. Nobody is removing her from that position. So once she retires, TSC will advertise. And recruitment will be done. So whether the person comes from our region or is a competent person from any other region, provided they can steer the teachers to the next level, I have no problem. I will give an example here. Let me just finish with this one. Look at the fantastic job that John Badi is doing in Treasury. We had our own Dongo, who was a very good professor, and I will not say he didn't do a good job, but would I say it was a must for CS Treasury to come from our region? But he's doing a good job.
I was only following up on that.
Those who are not on the replacement.
Thank you,
so it is important that we also become very reasonable.
Give me a second.
Let me give you
thank you very much. Let me first of all say thank you for calling us for this kind of debate, because we must show as readers that we want to start a new conversation, a new dawn. When leaders come here and discuss issues, suggest the way forward. And most importantly, it would have been quite important for Junior to tell us, I've attempted to bring this motion, but it has been shot down. Let us make an attempt before we start saying we cannot, because we are on the other side.
All right. Thank you so much.
I can never plant my feet on a rock.
Thank you so much, Wahome Wamatinga. Senator, allow me to...
If it is on a rock, why would I...
Senator Nyoto, allow me to acknowledge all my panelists.
Thank you.
Wahome Wamatinga, Senator Nyeri County. Sabina Chege, nominated MP, and Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County. Thank you so much for such a vibrant debate on Morning Cafe here at TV47. Thank you so much for your time. After the break, we switch gears, matters relationships. Are young people embracing polygamy? It's a question we're asking. We'll be having a big panel of young Kenyans here in studio to tell us if at all they're embracing this concept of polygamy. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. Enjoy your day.